Good evening, cult members, and welcome to Pop Culture Cult. I'm Sean.
I'm Janice.
And welcome to our instantly after the episode reaction, discussion, wild speculation of The Last of Us Season 2. This is episode 1 called Future Days. Some information about us as we go through what's going to be happening here with The Last of Us. I have played the first game. I have played half of the second game, but I know the full story because gameplay in the second game didn't keep me engaged.
Right.
But the story was pretty awesome. So I know things that she doesn't. She has no idea other than what happened in the season 1, and we both loved what they did in season 1.
Yes.
Some other things that you need to know if you're new around here for one of our reviews is we go all over the place in no particular order. We talk about the things that we liked in this episode. Spoilers for this episode. There's a lot that we liked about this episode. And there's going to be... so we won't be talking about like negatives or social media. Everything is popping up on my screen. We're not going to sit here and nitpick all this stuff that they didn't do this right compared to the game, and blah, 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 because Craig Mason and Neil Druckmann have said that the second season is going to take all the elements of the second game, but tell them very differently. And so we're going to find those things that we really liked about that. And so we try to be positive around here as much as we can. If that's not your kind of thing, thank you for clicking on us. Follow us if you wish, but that's not our thing.
Right.
One last thing, we may say something that I think is right, but I'm not entirely sure because we just watched the episode. I haven't had time to deep dive into all the little notes and things that I would normally do for something, and so I'm trying to remember off the top of my head a game that I played 4 years ago. Right. So I may be a little wrong on some things because that's going to be something that I'm going to discuss tonight because they did some things that are very different than the game, but also exactly the game. And so all those caveats are put out. To start, thoughts.
I liked this episode. I liked the... I don't know how to put this. Like the feel. I like. I'm weird. I like post-apocalyptic. I love The Stand. I love just if it could be.
She's on her 4th gameplay through of Death Stranding.
I love post-apocalyptic. Yeah. If it could be me and my husband and my family, on this earth alone, I would be happy. I'm also an introvert, so there's that. It was cozy, and they're all making it work, and it's, Jackson is, it's thriving, and I really liked that feel. And then on the flip side, I was kind of on edge, I'm mad at Joel, and I'm mad at
Ellie.
At Ellie. Because they're at odds with each other, but then I also get each of their sides. I mean, she's, she had, even though she's 19, she's going through her rebellious kind of teen years because she didn't have that before.
Right.
And so she's her growth is a little stunted. She's a little, not quite up there yet.
Yeah.
And she's just trying to be her own person. But then Joel's hurt about the fact that she doesn't want to...
And Joel is Joel.
But, she doesn't want to... I mean, I get that. Your kids grow up and you're used to having them... I mean, she's not his kid, but you're used to having them kind of, in your life and doing stuff with you all the time. And then suddenly they have their own life and you're like, well... What about me?
Yeah.
So
we're going to talk about spoilers of the first season. So if you're actually, I don't know why you listening to this or watching this. You haven't seen the first season or seen the episode because we're just going to be talking about that. So spoilers, but I never really think I think we talked about this in our reactions and our reviews from the first season. I believe Joel is right for what he did by saving Ellie from Joel's point of view. And I only see it from Joel's point of view. And so I understand that in the grand scheme of things, they could have possibly found a cure or an immunity or whatever to the cordyceps, but in the way the story is told, I 100% agree with Joel. I don't remember how you felt about that.
Yeah, and I mean, it wasn't the guarantee that they all thought it was going to be going into it. Like, they thought she was, like, they knew 100% she was going to fix this.
Yeah.
And then they get there and they're like, well, you know, the dozen or whatever before her didn't pan out. Maybe she will. And it's like, wait, it's not 100%. I'm not willing to risk her life for not even a hard maybe.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I agree with it too, but he did not tell her when he had the chance.
Yeah, and that's what I was going to bring up.
Yeah.
Is that he had every opportunity, and she even gave him the opportunity to tell me the truth.
Yeah.
And she was going to accept the truth that he gave her, either way.
Right.
And when they got, especially because the season 1 ends with them on the mountaintop above Jackson, and she asks him point blank to tell her the truth, because I think she at that point in time kind of has an idea that something didn't go exactly the way it was supposed to.
Right.
And he, in protecting himself and not protecting Ellie, lies.
Right.
And if he had told his truth, she would have been upset with it, but she would have accepted that a lot more than him lying to her about it. Is how I interpret it.
Yeah, and it's a human thing, right?
1,000%.
You don't want the initial, the bad thing right now, but in the long run, it would have been a better decision to have taken the bad thing right then and then worked through it. And
taking the poison pill now instead of having it just be poison, continue.
Yeah, because 5 years later, their relationship is just worse than.
Especially with the just who Ellie kind of ends up being. She's already kind of rough and tumble at 14, and now she's 19, and so like we were talking about that teenage thing that everybody goes through. It's even more with Ellie because Ellie's just already kind of gruff, anyways, as a person
and independent. I mean, she was independent at 14.
She was independent before that because her parents were dead. Like her mom dies giving birth to her, and all that kind of stuff.
And he's looking at her like an extension of his daughter, who. Was living in the reality that we all live in today versus Ellie, who was born into that reality.
Yeah.
She had, she didn't grow up on Xbox and TV and
they spent a lot of time explaining that in the first season.
Yeah.
Okay, so with all that being said, let's talk about how the game starts. The game starts with Joel and Tommy out on patrol. And Joel telling Tommy that she's immune and what he did. The show starts with Abby.
Right.
Now, the choice of Caitlin Devers as Abby has been fanboys of F-boys on the internet. I'm going to try not to curse too much. On the internet, did not like her casting because she wasn't built like a middle linebacker from the Arizona Cardinals because we live in Arizona. Because Abby in the game is built very muscularly, because she grew up in this world, and so she's very stocky and ripped arms. And Caitlin Dever is not that. She's very petite. But Caitlin was actually one of the people who were a finalist to play Ellie.
Oh, okay.
So she was aged out a little bit by the time they went to go cast her. And so having her come back around to be Abby is a very interesting choice. So to start the first episode, not as they started the game, because we as the audience already know what's happened. We don't have to go through the exposition of the Joel and Tommy to remind everybody what's going on. We all know.
Right.
They start with Abby. in St. Louis or Salt Lake with the giraffes bearing members of the Fireflies.
Right.
And her asking the rest of her friends to go find Joel, whatever it takes.
So I'm, and maybe I'm just not remembering, but I had a question when that happened. How did they know it's Joel?
So,
Because she specifically says, I mean, they all say it's Joel. We're going to go after him.
Right.
So
this is one of those times where I've been trying with this show not to tell her things that happen in the game. It's revealed later who Abby's dad is, but she figured it out on her own because she's smart. So if you don't want to know who Abby's dad is, thank you for clicking on, because that's going to be a major conversation we have the rest of the episode when it comes around Abby. In the post-episode breakdown, Caitlin Divers talks about her having to bury your father, and she figures out that her father is the doctor that Joel shot.
Right.
At the end of season 1, the end of game 1. He is the only one in that room that was shot. The other 2 nurses are still alive.
Oh, see, I thought everybody.
All the other Firefly guards were shot, but only the doctor in that room, because Joel went into that room. He only killed people who tried to attack him.
Yeah.
And the only one in that room that tried to attack them was the doctor with the scalpel.
Scalpel, yeah.
And so he shot him. The other 2 nurses are left alive.
Okay.
So that's how and the nurses don't know. They know some guy named Joel, older dude, about 6 foot, flannel shirt.
Yeah.
Scruffy beard. Like that's
apparently good looking.
And so when they having that conversation around the grave sites in this episode, Abby's like, let's go now. Let's go find him right now. We don't know where we're going, but we're going to figure it out. And they all convince her to go to Seattle, to the Firefly group there. We'll get the WLF later in the series, which is the Washington Liberation Front, which is a whole paramilitary. That's a whole different part of the conversation when it comes to the game.
That where we get Jeffrey Wright, probably.
Jeffrey Wright and all that kind of stuff is going to be part of that. Who played a character in the game is coming back for the show, which Jeffrey Wright's always a win. But that decision to start there, not to say that the only reason that we figured it out she figured it out, that Abby's dad was the doctor was because of the post-show thing. It was not said in the actual episode.
Right. No, mostly it was because she was talking about him, and I was like, well, this isn't going to be a guard. Nobody, and the Firefly chick, I don't remember what her name was. I mean, she was specifically saying
Marlene?
Her dad.
Marlene,
yeah.
Yeah.
She was specifically saying her dad. So I was like, well, the doctor?
Yeah,
the surgeon?
Yeah. So it was a very interesting choice to start with her, because most of the second game is about the ramifications of your choices, is what most of the second game is about. And also the other part of the second game is also when you have the opportunity to do something different than to make a different choice, do you make that different choice? And so Abby is a huge part of that whole conversation in the entire game. She's a huge part of the second game. So starting with Abby when this season starts is, for me, a very inspired choice. Because it would have been very easy for them to do the Joel and Tommy out on patrol and having the decision to have them rehash what happened at the hospital.
Yeah.
And they didn't really even do that. Now, Joel has a couple of instances where he has some flashes of what happened, but not necessarily they didn't rehash anything other than the pre-show thing, highlights from season 1.
Yeah. You need to, they're expecting the viewer to be ready to go.
And I greatly appreciate that they did that. I greatly appreciate that they said, no, the people who are watching this game or watching the show so intently have either played the game or loved the first season.
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
And so I don't need to come back and tell everything.
Yeah.
So them starting with that whole conversation, and then it goes a black screen. It says 5 years later.
Yeah.
So now we get the time dump that's actually in the game. We get Jackson. We get Tommy and Ellie. Ellie learning how to snipe. We get Joel doing all of his, like, he was a contractor, so he's helping build new homes and like working on construction material, and Maria, Tommy's wife, is like on the council, the city council or the clan council or whatever, like trying to like get him to build faster because they're finding more and more refugees, and what that all means. That whole section is not necessarily in the game in that particular style. They do talk about that stuff, but it's not nearly as important as it is here, because game mechanics is very different than storytelling mechanics on the screen.
Right, because there's nothing that's going on in that situation that would be something that you would be doing in the game, unless you're like building homes, or I mean that has nothing to do with, the game.
Right. And that's one of the things that I really appreciate, that they spent the time to have this conversation, that there are other people who are surviving outside beyond Jackson, who are coming to Jackson because it's a safe haven.
Right.
And the fact that the pipes themselves, I don't know what those clay pipes are for. I don't think it's water from the dam because they're on top of the ground.
They would be sewer pipes.
Sewer pipes is what I most likely thought.
Yeah.
But they've realized that they're full of roots, which makes complete sense. It's been 25 years. It makes complete sense. I love that they broke it open, find all the roots. I was like,
Yeah.
And then the last shot of the episode was the cordyceps hiding in with all those roots.
Yeah.
Because in the trailer, we have Jackson being attacked by a horde.
Yeah.
And that doesn't happen in the game. There is a horde in the game, and that's at the resort, which was in this is in the trailer for the season to come. But there's not necessarily a horde that attacks Jackson in the game, and so you have to have that big action set piece for the show. You have to have it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But the things that I do want to talk about that Dina and Ellie and the three others going on patrol.
Yep.
They find a grizzly bear been attacked by runners, and then somebody went into the convenience store or the grocery store or wherever it was. Dina and Ellie have a fun exchange, silent exchange, while the clickers are walking around. Ellie picks up a glass bottle and throws it to get the clicker's attention. That's straight from the game. And then killing the clicker with the knife. Again, that's straight from the game. You want to be as quiet as you can if there's other clickers in the room. All of that happens directly from the game. Them finding the board with the
dog as the employee of the month
and all that stuff. That's all straight from the game. But that patrol happens the morning after the New Year's Eve party.
Okay, so out of order.
A little out of order. Totally, it's fine. It's totally fine. But it sets up Dina and Ellie's kind of friendship.
Yeah.
Before everything happens at the New Year's Eve party.
Right. Yeah.
And then in the New Year's Eve party is pretty much beat for beat, at times word for word from what the game is. Ellie showing up, Jesse and Dina breaking up, and then that whole conversation again happens after the party when they're on patrol, not before. But then Jesse at the party telling Ellie, like, Dina's hot, like they're both like kind of wooing for her or whatever. And then Dina and Ellie dancing, and then them kissing more than once, and then somebody, Chris, I think is what they called them, interrupting. That whole segment is straight from the game, and it's important to remind people that, particularly for that scene, is just because the apocalypse has happened and you've moved on from 25 years later from what the regular real world was like, the the world that existed, those prejudices
Right.
still exist.
Yeah.
And that's also a conversation that happens throughout the game in the second game,
Yep. Unfortunately.
unfortunately. But what comes out of that is something that I want to kind of maybe finish talking about with this, is that's in the game, Joel never really deals with it, his decisions. He tries several times to talk to Ellie about it. They do have a blow up about everything. But in this version of the show, even Craig Mazin talked about it. When you actually have real monsters in the world, of course you're going to try to cure the monsters in your head. So of course you're going to try to go to therapy.
Yeah.
Or at least try to work it out. And so Catherine O'Hara's character, whose name I do not remember off the top of my head, and I'm pretty sure it's Gail, is a new character for the show.
Right.
Gail's husband is Eugene. Eugene's a huge part later on. We'll get to that. But her calling Joel out on his bullshit
Yeah.
for not really addressing what he's trying to get help for
Right. Right.
is, again, I will say, an inspired choice, because the game doesn't deal with much of that.
Yeah.
But the real world does. And so, because this is much more of an allegory for the real world than what the game was, even though the game deals with a lot of real world stuff in the post-apocalyptic.
Well, you're not like, that's not fun gameplay.
Right.
To go see a therapist.
Right.
Right. That's not.
It could be. It could be very interesting, but flashback scenes and
Only
stuff.
if your therapist was a clicker or something. But yeah,
Right.
I mean, that's just not. Yeah, that's not fun gameplay. So, but it makes more sense in a show
Yeah.
to do that, and it also helps with some exposition, right? Because they bring up Eugene,
Yeah.
which for the show, I mean, I understand that they talked about how it kind of happened off screen in the game, him killing Eugene, so that kind of brings it into the show without you having to see what happened, and then just gives you some exposition about Joel not dealing with the actual reason that he's there.
Yeah.
He's talking around it.
Yeah.
But not actually coming out and talking about it.
A lot of the things that was dealt with in this first season was Joel being violence first. He wasn't that way before Outbreak Day.
Right.
But after Outbreak Day, he's violence first. And he's trying to, at this point, feels like maybe he's trying to rectify that. But even when he has an opportunity to step up and stand for Ellie at the party.
Yeah, he just knocks the guy out.
and Ellie is kind of done with all of that.
Yeah.
And she's trying to be her own person, and she calls him out and kind of humiliates him in the public eye. And even in a therapy session, he's not willing to say out loud what he actually did.
Right.
And I appreciate, like, one of the reasons Tommy and Joel's conversation on patrol when Joel tells Tommy what he actually did to save Ellie is a big emotional point for the game to start on, is to remind us, to have us as the players go back through that emotional roller coaster of that whole final act.
Right.
Here, that emotional roller coaster that they're putting us through is Joel is holding that all in, and it's eating at him.
Right.
But he can't let it go because he's afraid of losing everyone around him for making this decision for himself and not for everybody else. And he feels like, I'm projecting now, he feels that everyone else is going to say, you should have let them take her.
Right. Even though, I mean, he's projecting, right?
Right.
He is thinking everybody's gonna.
Right. And they haven't said that yet, but I think that's what they're ultimately going to.
Well, yeah. I mean, he thinks that everybody's gonna hate him because he made this decision, even though, like I said earlier, it wasn't a guarantee. It
Yeah.
wasn't like she
Yeah.
was absolutely going to fix the world. So there's going to be plenty of people that are going to understand the decision that he made. But he has built it up in his head that he is the only person that's going to think what the decision that he made was the right one.
And even when Gail calls him out on it, and she asks him if he hurt her, and Pedro is so amazing.
Yeah.
His frustrated with himself anger without showing it in his face is it just in his eyes, and the subtle head nod while he starts, like, a tear starts to run.
Yeah.
And then Gail asking him if he hurt her, and he's like, "No, I didn't hurt her. I didn't do anything."
Right, because she's thinking something
Right,
else.
right. And we as the audience, if we don't know, are going to jump to that conclusion.
Right.
It's an older guy with a young girl out on the road.
They were alone for a long time.
And because that's how. I'm not saying that doesn't happen, but that's such a small microcosm of what happens in the real world. But it gets magnified because it's such a heinous act.
Yeah.
And so I want to tread really lightly on that. Like, the number of how actual sexual assaults is very, 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 very low, considering what or domestic violence or whatever. But it's a huge thing in our lexicon because it is such a vile thing.
Right.
And so everybody's first thing to jump to is that he did something inappropriate one way or the other with her, and that's not what it was.
Right.
It was pure love what he did. His love for her and not everybody else. And that conversation is the same conversation they have in The Matrix. Go back and watch The Matrix. It's the same conversation.
Yeah.
Neo picks Trinity over everybody else.
Over everybody else. Yeah.
Every time. And then in Resurrection, Trinity picks Neo when she's given the choice. And so when Gail calls him out on it, that whole scene is just beautifully shot. Catherine O'Hara and Pedro Pascal's faces are the entire screen when it cut back and forth.
But then you're frustrated with him because when she just about gets him to say it, he just stands up and says, I saved her, and walks out.
Yeah.
Instead of saying what he actually did, which, like, if you just told somebody, it would, they would
release it.
It would release it, and chances are the person that he tells it to is going to say, you did the right thing, and then it's all going to be over.
Right.
But
but even Dina, like, asks him when she comes in, he's working on the breakers.
Yeah.
And she comes in the house, and Dina and Joel have a relationship as more friends.
Yeah, he says she treats him more like a daughter than Ellie does. Yeah. But and then Catherine.
But even she asked him, "Why are you guys fighting?"
Yeah,
and he refuses to say anything.
Yeah,
like he even told her, "Don't tell anybody that I'm going through therapy."
Right,
because he's so I don't know how to word this the right way. He has self-coded himself as the alpha male, and he's so not the alpha male.
Yeah.
He is, I have to be strong, I have to be dependable, I have to be there no matter what happens, and I can't deal with my emotion, my love for Ellie, my love for in the first season, in the first game, and she dies, and then Bill tells her, I can't remember her name off the top of my head. Like, he can't even, like, tell her how he feels.
Right. He couldn't tell her Yeah.
So all of that is very frustrating with somebody who is so caring. Just say your thing. Tell your truth. And sure, somebody's gonna be pissed off at you, but F them. Like when it comes down to. With the way this episode ends, with them having the party, and then Ellie showing up on Joel's doorstep on the porch. Like, I wonder if they'll have a conversation about like what the next conversation is going to be with the two of them. Like,
I think it's going to be unresolved for a while. I think she just went into the garage and
there is a conversation about the guitar, and so that does happen in the game. That is olive branch between the two, and so they made a point of showing the guitar.
yeah, but I don't think
So-
it's going to be right this minute.
But there's only 7 episodes, so we've already had 1, so we got 6 left. We don't have time to mess around with a lot of like playing around.
Yep.
And I know at least one of those episodes is going to be a bottle episode, like what the Bill and Frank episode was last year.
Yeah.
So I know at least one of those episodes. With this show, before last week before it got released, that they announced at the premiere that it's already been picked up for season 3.
Yep.
So if you think you know what's going to happen this season, you are completely wrong. Now, our daughter and I have both played the game and are very in depth about what's going to happen. So if you're in the comments, please don't spoil anything that happens in the game for those who haven't played the game, who know what's going on. But we are both of the theory that the first act of the game is only going to be this season, and that season 3 is going to be the second act, and then the third act will be the fourth act is. Neil Druckmann has said we are not going past the games. Now, all of us game players want the third game, but I got to finish Assassin's Creed. I still got to play Indiana Jones, but.
So many games, so little time.
So many maybe I should retire. In 6-7 weeks. But if you're going to be in the comments and have questions and stuff like that, please be spoiler-free conversation, because we want people to enjoy the show as it comes out. Engage in the story that's being told. It's fun to speculate, but there's going to be some stuff that's going to be very different from the game. Like I said, some things were out of order. They did some things a little bit different, introducing Abby first instead of going through all the stuff in Jackson, that kind of thing.
Yep.
With all of that being said, I think that's everything I wanted to talk about this episode. I'm sure we'll miss something. If you are on the Spotify side, follow us here. If you're on the YouTube side, hit the bell for notifications and hit the subscribe button. We are doing breakdowns like this after every episode of Last of Us, every episode of Doctor Who. We have the Daredevil season finale this next week, and Andor starts on the 25th.
And we have the Sinners movie review on Thursday. We go see the Sinners.
Yes. So we're doing all that kind of stuff. So if this is your kind of conversations that you want to have, please follow us. We greatly appreciate it. It costs you nothing, and it means everything to us. And then follow us on all the social media stuff: Facebook, Instagram, Blue Sky, TikTok. I am writing for the Geekiary. All the links are in the description down below. I want to go watch it again. And until next time, cult members, good afternoon, good evening, and good night now.